Hello and welcome to Sebring, Florida for the Indy Pro 2000 Week 7 action. We head to Florida, one of the most famous racetracks in the world. We're just about 150 miles south of another famous racetrack, Daytona International Speedway. And we're here at this 17-corner bumpy circuit, home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, testing for the IndyCar Series, testing as well for the IMSA Series, and now we're having Pro Mazda action. Bit of a warm one here, 25 degrees Celsius, 34 degrees Celsius, the track temperature. That really should play in the driver's hand. The warmer the condition, the better that rear end sticks to the ground. Clear and a nice light breeze, a beautiful Florida day. My name is Jonathan Burke. Joining alongside me is Tom Davis. Hugo Luis is our cameraman for this afternoon. Our normal cameraman, Tyler Maxton, is down racing the IMSA Pilot Challenge, so hopefully he's having a good week. And track cams provided by Istvan Ballo and Track Cams 22. You join us now with 5 minutes of qualifying left. And Tom, this should be a really entertaining and exciting race. We head to one of the most challenging, I think, road courses on the North American continent, and some of the most exciting racing we've seen so far this season could take place right here.
Yeah, it could. This really is a classic venue. Often when we go to these American circuits, I'm kind of representing Europe and the UK in this broadcast, and it's kind of like, well, we don't hear that much about this circuit, or we don't really follow over racing. This one, everybody knows. It is incredibly famous, and that's because it's incredibly good. What you will notice, however, is that it's not incredibly modern. It's a really old-school circuit. If you have a little lapse of concentration, or you take a curb that you're not supposed to ride every lap, it will bite you, and you can see on board with Greg Sykes here, the walls are right there to gather you up.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a thin margin for error, especially right here. This is the Tower Corner, turn 13. You can see the dirt in that runoff area. And this is a hard course, especially in these Pro Mazda cars. You really have to be on the edge of control the entire time to make a fast lap time. We're expecting a pretty big gap from the top to the bottom of the field, although with a 23-car field to top split, we should get some really exciting, entertaining racing today. Yeah,
and we got some big names. Basically, anybody that's ever been involved in this championship hunt is here. We got Christopher Wright, Greg Sykes, Jack Ashton, Frank Newen, Loic Barb. They're all here. Mitchell Green's another one who we've seen perform really well. So we should be set up for sort of the battle of the potential champions as such. And it could prove to be incredibly important in the championship as a result.
And this is also one of the biggest races of the split of the week. Normally the highest split was, I believe, 20 cars, and now we have 23. So it's going to get tight, especially in this section right here, from 2 all the way to turn 6 and Big Bend. This is where you pointed out, like, this could get really, really chaotic in a hurry if you go side by side through here.
Yeah, because you've slipstreamed down the Elman Straight, you've tucked in through the final corner, slipstream again down the start-finish straight. You're looking at turn 1, but ultimately it's hard to get it all done in turn 1, so you'll see them running up through that section, all side by side, neck and neck, and it could all get a little bit aggressive as they fight for position in what is ultimately a narrow part of the racetrack.
And you really need to get a good run out of there, because you can get a good draft and a good run and take a big dive down into turn 7 in the hairpin and gain a few spots there. There's plenty of passing opportunities, but again, plenty of places for things to go wrong. And we mentioned this, it's an old school tight circuit. This is not like a modern circuit like we saw at Circuit of the Americas, for example, or any circuit built within the last 10 or 15 years. This is an old school tough circuit, and it's going to prove to be a challenge, I think, for the drivers today.
Yeah, even that hairpin that you mentioned, it's not a normal hairpin. There's a point to it rather than it being an even curve, and then the corner winds back to the left immediately. So even that, what you would think obvious overtaking zone, has a little bit of character, something that's just different to other circuits, and all of that takes its toll on your brain as you try and make lots of little decisions over and over again, and ultimately you'll get one wrong, make a mistake, and that's when it's all going to kick off.
Just under 2 minutes to go in qualifying. 18 drivers have set a lap. Currently, Jack Ashton impressing right now, sitting on top. Sainz in second. Mitchell Green again, someone who's really come up through the ranks. Loic Barb, someone who's a very talented racer, just has not had the luck, I think, go their way in this series. You can see Frank Newen a little bit down the order, Servi Seppa. And there's one I did want to talk about, Pierre Boudon. I saw on the forum page, apparently there was a bit of a chaotic race 2 nights ago, where Pierre Bourdon started second. Greg Seitz decided to start on pit road. There's a bit of an accident on the first lap going into turn 1, and Bourdon held off a charging Greg Seitz to take a huge win for himself. So I'm going to look out for him, maybe to make up some places and maybe sneak up into the top 5 and top 10. And this is just a track that you just need to stay out of trouble. Just stay off the grass, stay out of contact with one another, and I think you can be successful at the end.
Yeah, the other person who's got a lot to prove is Jack Ashton. He tops the overall standings with 949 points. But this week, he's not even anywhere near the top of them because he started one race, started from 3rd on the grid, finished 13th. So he's been involved in chaos as well, and as such needs to try and gather himself up and score well this evening.
Hey, you mentioned chaos. One guy that really wants to avoid the chaos is Christopher Wright. We saw last week at VIR just an unfortunate error coming through the first sector out of NASCAR. Bends, spins, gets collected, and I think he's taken that a little bit to heart, a little bit personally this week, because right now he's entered 4 races, 0 incidents recorded in all of them. So maybe it could be Christopher Wright's day. He's sitting P4. We have a lot of big players as qualifying finishes up. The checkered is out, and we advance the session. We'll go to your starting grid. So Jack Ashton pips Greg Seitz for pole as those 2 championship contenders start 1 and 2. Mitchell Green in the number 10 from Pennsylvania is P3. Christopher Wright I already mentioned in P4. What can those 2 do? They've been impressive. Can they steal a win? Luke Barb in P5 and Alan Jolly. He's actually raced the most races this week in P6. Adam McCanson from Scandinavia in P7. Frank Nguyen, the Canadian, in P8. Servi Sepper, the Finnish driver, in P9. Christopher Valencia in P10. Outside the top 10, Rodrigo Munoz in P11. And Joyce Ingles in P12. Fabio Berchhold in P13. Andrew Dixon from Australia in P14. Pierre Bourdon, I mentioned he got a really good win over Greg Seitz earlier this week, is in P15. David Mittelhoser, he's been really impressive and really gritty driver in P16. How far up the field can he get? Connor Melia in P17. John Michael Nguyen in P18. Dario Helmich in P19, the number 13 machine. Andrew Barry, a little bit further back probably than he wants to be, in P20. Chris Pollock in P21 for car number 21. And then the provisionals, David Weber, no time, in 22nd. And Fabrizio Raffa from Italy in P23. Anyone who knows the Indy Pro 2000 series, it splits at 24. We nearly have a full room here today. And I'm sure there's going to be action all up and down the field.
Yeah, obviously, you put more cars on track, you're going to see more stuff happen. It's just how racing works, and it doesn't tend to go linearly either. As the track gets more and more full, you'll see battles that would normally be 2 or occasionally 3 cars. Suddenly, it's a fight between 5 and 6 cars for a given position. So it really will give us plenty of excitement and action this evening. Of course, we take a nice full pace lap as well to get these tyres up to temperature, and ultimately, I think it will just be time for the guys at the front to worry about what's going to happen through this first little section of the lap.
Yeah, that funnel out into turn 1. It's a wide corner going down into turn 1, but then really thins out as we look at Frank Nguyen here in the number 7 machine. And it's going to be a tight track, I think, to really get passing there, which is, I think, why you really need to qualify well and be towards the front unless chaos happens in front of you, which if chaos does happen in front of you, I think that's even worse. There's not really many places to go to take evasive action.
Yeah, of course. As you mentioned, chaos is going to happen because the track is quite narrow through that first part, but it's quite narrow, so where are you going to go to get out of people's way? You can take to the grass, but then you really are at the mercy of the bumps and the little humps that are hidden underneath the green stuff. So got to be careful, got to get a little bit lucky as well as ever in racing and take it from there. You can't really make a plan for this sort of event. You've just got to see what happens and hope that you get out of the first couple laps in a reasonable position to move forward.
Speaking of bumps and humps, we talked about tire temperature and that this surface is a little bit rough, hasn't been repaved or anything like that in quite some time, and the temperature being high actually is a benefit to these drivers. I've seen a lot of driver discussion that really these higher temps help these rear tires stick to the ground. So maybe we can see some really good aggressive driving, drivers being a little more confident with their grip in the car.
Yeah, and as soon as you've got rear grip as well, that gives you the traction, and this circuit can lend itself to the cutback, as we always call it. You know, you go into these big stops, but you're going to have to be on the inside to get it done on the brakes, and as such, you open up the opportunity for the driver that you're overtaking just to come back underneath you, get better traction, and make the move straight back on you. And that's not possible when you don't have the traction, because you can't turn the car, you can't pivot it quite so efficiently. As soon as you give the rear end grip, you can get the power down and you can drag them to the next one.
And there's plenty of places to do that. You go from Cunningham all the way to the tower, turn 10 to turn 13. That's a good place to go side by side and have some intense action. Even through turn 1, if you want to be risky all the way to turn 6, you can try and get some grip. But now we're heading through Bishop towards Le Mans in turn 16, and this long straightaway down to Sunset Bend, it's going to be huge to get a good run out of here and get a good dive down to the inside, but can you hold it on the inside to make a good move?
It's really tricky, isn't it? I mean, even on the qualifying lap, we can see the guys going all the way out on the circuit to try and open up that corner. And then you come down this straight, the Ullman Straight, towards Sunset Bend, and it is definitely a bend, not a turn as such. You've got to flow all the way through it, so it's often a game of chicken to see who's going to back out when you reach the final corner.
You know, watching a lot of tutorials, watching some drivers practice, and they go from 150 miles an hour down to 80 in just this corner. They're on edge the entire time. As now we round the final corner of this 17-corner, 3.7-mile circuit, and the pace car will head down pit lane and leave the field in control of the Ford Zilla racing machine of Jack Ashton. Pace car comes down. We head to the front straightaway. Jack Ashton is quickly away. 23 Pro Mazda drivers. Green, green, green from Sebring, Florida. And we're already fanning out 2 and 3 wide behind him. Ashton, a brilliant jump on the start. Is able to pip Greg Seitz for the lead. Christopher Wright is up into third. Green down to fourth. And they are side by side, flowing ebb and flow through the corners. 3 wide in the background. And this is going to be an intense first lap, but right now for Ashton, key. And there's a spinner. Green car off the 16, hit hard. That's Jean-Michael New, and another car spinning. The 19 as well involved. That's David Weber. And someone else dropping towards the rear of the field.
Oh, it's Mittelholzer. Mittelholzer has done so well in recent weeks. That's a shame to see, but if he's got the option to come back through, I'm sure he will give it a go. But what a start it was from Jack Ashton. Did exactly what he needs to do, gave himself that little bit of breathing room. That's the 9 car of Joris Engels as well. Packed grids means the cars are packed into a small space, and this seems somewhat inevitable, as we mentioned. Not immediately Engels trying to go side by side and regain one of those positions. Here's Isaacson. He made a fantastic start. He was up alongside, made that wonderful move into turn 3 that we just caught in the background, and that puts him all the way up into 6th position, closing in on this top 5 group.
And the key for him is going to be, there's going to be a huge train of drafting going down this long straightaway, the Ullman Straight as they call it here, down to Sunset Bend as they head through Le Mans now. Ashton with a little under a second lead, but here's the back view of Greg Seitz, and well, this is not what you want to see. It's now Seitz, a beautiful draft, able to get to the inside of Jack Ashton. Yeah, this is going to be the problem. If you're out front, there's just going to be problems trying to hold people off. Right to the inside, can he hold it on Ashton? The tires are fresh, it is warm. Mitchell Green almost into the back of the gearbox of him as well. They are driving to the limits on these things. And you said it earlier, this is a race of champions right now. These are some of the top contenders in the entire series going at it, and it is incredible to watch. Sainz able to contain the lead. Can Ashton hold off? Wright, looks like for the moment he can, but Christopher Wright, he's getting anxious in that 6 car.
Yeah, it was really respectful from Ashton. You get the feeling he had the grip to turn in more, but he said, you know what, I'm just not going to do it. We don't need to be that aggressive, squeeze towards the apex that much. There's Isaacson again. That looks as if he's just getting a move done on Loic Barb. So Isaacson continuing to move up through the field into 5th position now, but Loic Barb pulls out on the run towards the hairpin. Has a little think about it. Isaacson breaks late enough to discourage that. Michelin Green making progress as well.
Yeah, I mentioned there's plenty of places to make passes, but plenty of places for mistakes. Right now, no mistakes. Well, as I say that, never mind. Andrew Dixon has gone around for an adventure, and Helmrich has gone around for an adventure as well. Looks like going into the swamp and exploring maybe where the alligators are. That turn 7 hairpin seems to be biting a lot of people. It's got Joris Engels on the previous lap. And now Ashton looks to the inside. It's really hard to get it down into this corner. Turn 13 is going to have a hefty dose of draft as they head down to turn 14. And Isaacson is dispatched of Christopher Wright as well in the background. And you've been talking about that 5 machine a lot as he's moving up through the field. Ashton to the inside, a little bit loose goes Greg Seitz. Ashton going to get a good run into Le Mans, but he's not going to get a good exit out of the corner. Greg Seitz a huge bit of momentum. There's nothing Ashton really can do besides try to defend to the inside. Good thing that DRS sign is virtual, otherwise it would be long gone. They're side by side going into Sunset Bend. What does Mitchell Green do? And here comes Adam Isaacson around the outside in Sunset Bend. That's not the preferred way to do it. He's going to have to back out. And Ashton able to retain the lead for now. But these guys keep fighting, and they're just going to keep bringing more and more players into the party. Barb and Nguyen are still in touching distance and striking distance. As we go nearly 3 wide into turn 1, Seitz will lead. Ashton in second, Isaacson now up to third.
Oh, I think there was a little bit of a touch there, but Isaacson gathered it up through Sunset Bend and managed to get the traction nonetheless. That gave him a fantastic run, got himself to the inside of Ian Green. He's up onto the podium positions. Given the rate he's traveling at, he'll be looking at the lead of the race potentially within the next half a lap or so. He is absolutely on fire.
Yeah, but he's messing with some of the best in this league. Jack Ashton is a very aggressive, very teeth-gritty driver. He knows how to get it done on overtaking, but Greg Seitz, if you have this man behind him, like if I were racing in this series, I'd just give up. This man can hunt anyone down and pass everyone if need be. He's one of the highest rated drivers in the series and one of the most consistent ones at that. So Isaacson has a tall order. But again, the more and more these guys keep fighting, more and more players are coming into the fight. Nguyen has tagged onto the edge of the battle as we get a RaceSpotTV replay of the start of the race. It was Jean-Michael Nguyen who is several laps down.
Oh,
and who tagged Melia and then into the 19. Where does Bittelhoser get involved? I think he's off on his own a little bit further ahead.
Here's Engels, who we saw as well. Yeah, just another one. Cold tires, overshot the braking zone. He gathers it up, though, quite nicely. So I reckon he's done that when practicing before. Jack Ashton.
Yeah, this was the pass for the lead.
Replay. So this was the pass for the lead. Yeah, you can see I just ran it in a little bit hot into that corner, didn't he? Which denied him the ability to get the power down, and he might have done it again because he's gone from second down to fourth. Isaacson takes up that second position. Green's through. Here comes Christopher Wright on the inside as well. He has been absolutely mugged. Green off into the grass. Keeps it out the wall somehow. He'll be fighting all the way down, squeezes Ashton. Ashton tucks in behind Wright. He'll try and tuck out again. They're weaving this way, and that God knows how they haven't made just a little bit of contact. Now Wright's out wide. Green tries to take advantage, but gets his nose wiped by the orange car. It all settles down as they head in towards turn 3, but you get the feeling it's going to kick off again in 1 lap's time.
And right now his kryptonite seems to be Le Mans corner for Jack Ashton. He was 3 wide on the straightaway, which we're looking at some RaceSpotTV replays. Is now down to 3rd, Wright up to 4th, Green now in 5th, Barb down to 6th, Frank Nguyen continues his solid run in 7th. But again, Jolly and Servi Seppa have also tagged onto the back of this train. Like any one of these 9 drivers can still win. This a little sideways goes Ian Green, just drifting a little bit right there. He's trying to audition for Formula Drift, which I think is going to be around here in a few weeks' time. And a little bit wide there again. They're all over the place, just trying to find grip, trying to hold one another off. Barb to the outside. He's going to get a good exit down through the Cunningham and Collier corner, and maybe a dive bomb coming in tower. But again, some of these corners, just a thin margin of error. You can't force something if it's not there. And I think as this race goes on, drivers get more desperate. As Green again getting a little adventurous out into the dirt. As this race goes on, you're going to have to be more and more aggressive. You're going to have to make these aggressive moves, or right now you may be a little timid.
Keep around Frank Nguyen as well. This is classic Frank Nguyen. He's just not getting involved. He's letting them fight, wait for the mistake, wait for that little bit of contact. And the pink car, who's currently 2nd in the championship, just through exactly this sort of consistency and patience, is doing exactly what he wants to do. He's just sitting on the cusp of the battle, not making any mistakes, keeping his tires in check. And come the latter half of this race, I would be surprised if the 7 car is still down in position number 7.
Or if mistakes happen up front. We've already seen it go 3 wide down the Ullman Straight into Sunset Bend, and I wouldn't be surprised if we try and do it again. Looking to the outside now, Barb on Green, trying to go the long way around turn 1, a very, very long way. Looks like he was trying to stay on the runway and go for takeoff, and A little bit into the grass. That's going to compromise his lap a little bit. Here comes Frank Nguyen to the outside. This is not an area I want to be too wide. And Frank Nguyen wisely backs out of it, but that's going to put him into the hands of Alan Jolly. And you see, if you go for an overtake with so many of these top competitors in this series under a blanket, there's only 5 seconds separating the top 10, for example. If you go for an overtake and make a mistake, you're going to end up in the clutches of someone behind you.
Yeah, and all this fighting, Greg Seitz was the first person to hold the lead down the Ulman Straight last time around, which means that he's just able to open up a little bit of a gap. It's getting towards 1 second now. And the moment it gets to that 1 second, then guys will begin to get worried because you're not catching him in the slipstream anymore. You need to do it the hard way.
They go further back in the field. We've been so concentrating on the top 10 battle, we forget there's 23 other drivers in this field, and they're all still on track. Mittelhoser trying to recover from that early error is currently battling Chris Pollock. Looks like that's for 18th place. Everyone else kind of spread out in that midfield, but again, I can show you the fighting up front will only get them closer and closer to the battle. As we look on the left side of the screen, the 11 and the 4 battling hard, and there's Mittelhoser around the outside. What a move by the 15 on Chris Pollock. And he's going to be off and away, but he has a lot of time to try and make up for that early mistake. Yeah,
of course. You don't get away with something that unpunished in such a huge field. So he'll make up a few places, but being down in 18th, he's then got a reasonable margin up towards the next car, about 2.8 seconds. And again, another one after that. They all get more spaced out the further down you go.
Oh, what is happening to Isaacson?
It's Isaacson.
Isaacson, I believe, has gone off and hit the wall. The wheel is not straight. He's bouncing all over the curbs. He has dropped back to 9th position and just into the outside wall outside of Sunset Bend. He was doing such a good job. And eventually, as the grip wears off, he's trying his best. He's wheeling it, he's wheeling it, he's wheeling it, and there, just a little bit of contact. And that could end his day. You can see it's not already straight. The wheel on the left is bent inward. And now it looks like he's actually towed it back to pit lane. And such a shame. It was a really, really good drive so far from him.
Yeah, he was doing so well, but I got to be honest, that sort of thing I've fallen foul to before, just understeered into the wall. Here's Seppa, the 4 car, down the inside of Frank Nguyen. Nguyen, as per, not fighting it too hard, just kind of lets it happen at this stage in the race. He's very much a cognitive driver, is Frank, so he'll bide his time. He doesn't want to lose any time fighting with Seppa when the two of them can just swap positions and slipstream their way up towards the cars ahead.
Yeah, especially with that little accident right there, that kind of broke up a little bit of the field. Sainz is now about a second ahead of Ashton, as you can see on the left side of our screen. Wright's about a little under a second closer to Ashton, but now everyone's kind of spread out, trying to take their time. And tires are going to wear off, as we just saw right there. The grip is going to go away, and you're going to really need to manage going into these corners how fast you're really going to take it.
Yeah, it is going to get tricky, particularly when they fought so hard in the opening laps. You come in, you blitz these tires immediately, they do lose their grip, so immediately you're sort of balancing the understeer, which is what caught Isaacson out, and as a result he's gone from P2 down to out of the race as a result of this, and everyone else, that's sort of their warning. They're like, oh, hang on. They're already beginning to lose a little bit of the turning ability. Let's just be careful here for a moment. Jolly losing it, it would seem, to Seppa as well. So Seppa's on a little bit of a charge at the moment.
Yeah, Seppa moves up into the 6th position. He has a little bit of a gap to make up to Loic Barb in the number 2 machine, but able to pick off both Jolly and Nguyen. Looks like that car is coming alive. And this is where I think we're going to see some of these guys that are set up for this late, long run really come into play right now. As we saw all that slicing and dicing early on, is now when you're getting your tires up to temperature, when you're getting into the rhythm like Servi Seppa is, he's up 3 places from the start. He started 9th up to 6th. You can really go for it right now. And top 5 and maybe even a podium could be on deck for the 4 machine.
Yeah, of course. Particularly when the front two are pushing as hard as they can. They're setting good lap times, but they are doing the classic Seitz Ashton thing that we've seen multiple times this season, where they're both on the limit all the time, out of Seitz's fear that Ashton is going to get close enough and have the opportunity to be his aggressive self. So Seitz just wants to keep him far enough back that a move is never an option. It just results in the two of them putting lap time after lap time after lap time in until the tires go. And then we've seen the field can actually come back to them in the last couple laps.
I don't know if Greg Seitz even has a limit. And look at his time trial times, like week after week after week, and his average is always 3 or 4 tenths faster than everyone else. And he's Been able to hold this lead for now, but I think this is the kryptonite right now for Jack Ashton. Le Mans corner. He loses so much straight line speed out of that corner, and you really need a good exit to get the best possible draft you can on the person in front of you. Because without that straight line speed in the draft, how are you going to get around someone going into Sunset Bend?
Yeah, it's really tricky, and even when he was in that fight, when he went for the move, he went for it on the brakes into Le Mans, which is never really the best of options, because as we saw, they're just going to slipstream you back. They're just going to get a better exit. So it seems as if he's maybe struggling a little bit with the concept of the corner as to what you should be prioritizing on your way through it.
Go back a little bit further back in the field, down to 17th position. David Mittelhoser trying to recover from that early air, as Gary Helmich, who's also trying to recover from a little bit of an early spin on lap 1. Going through Sunset Bend now. Mittelhoser has gotten back around Chris Pollock. Those two have been fighting hard, trading positions and passing where passing should probably not be done. And right now this 13 machine a little bit further back probably than he wants to be, but again, this shows how costly like those first lap errors are. Even if the pack is all bunched up together, you lose just so much time in the grand scheme of things.
You do, and these guys are aware of it. I think Mittelholzer will be quite frustrated that he made what seemed to be an unforced error from the outside, potentially struggling the rear a little bit, or he's just driving angry as he gets a little bit of a drift on out of turn number 5. That's through Big Bend there, the corner that isn't a corner. You're just completely flat, and you break into this hairpin. David looking really strong on the deceleration part of the corner. He then sets himself up for a lovely exit, closing all the time. But it's hard to get a move done here. You get a nice little run through Fangio. Cunningham will open itself up. David's going to pull to the inside. He knows he's stronger on the brakes than the 13, but the line and the track as a whole just closes down that overtaking on opportunity, and can't really send one on the brakes there. You need to already be alongside if you want the opportunity, and as such, you'll probably have to wait until that back straight now. Or maybe not.
Or not. He's
Commentator's
not
curse on myself. He doesn't have to. 15's alongside, just to prove me wrong. David, we've seen him pull off some impressive overtakes. Lovely there, just taking the flow of the car and the circuit around the outside into 15, and before they've even got to Le Mans, he's already pulled, what's that, a couple tenths away, which might be enough to hold it down the Ullman Straight.
Well, there's double dose of draft right now for the 21 machine as well for the 13. And Mittelhoser is a little far back right now from the 23 to get a draft. But here comes the inside Helmrich. Mittelhoser gives him the room at the rear end sliding on that 13 machine. You can tell he's struggling a little bit for grip. He's still on the inside, manages to get clear. Good driving, and again, this is a good top split affair, because even these guys, even though they're battling down kind of places they don't want to be, it really just shows you the talent that we have in this field. Mittelhoser loses the spot again to Chris Pollock. These two have been at it for the past 7 or 6 laps. And now, is he going to go to the inside here? It's not recommended, and thankfully he does take my recommendation. Is now just going to ride out behind. You can get a good draft here through Big Bend into the hairpin. That's probably where he's going to do it on the next corner.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about the slipstream down the Ullman Straight because of how monstrous it is, but it's not like it doesn't exist through Big Bend. It's another huge flat-out section. David, really competent on the brakes, gets it turned in, and he's able to hold that line just a little bit more than everybody else, which gives him a little bit earlier on the power, and potentially opens up a move down here, but once again, he's not got that overlap. You can see he looks at it. He tries to make the car in front nervous to the extent where they make a mistake, and actually the 21 might have done it. David's going to try set up the exact same move as he did last lap.
He's going to go around the outside and then go inside into Tower Corner, but this time Pollock remains strong. It was a couple laps ago, actually, where we were in the double box where he did pull off that move on Chris Pollock, but Pollock proving to be a bit of a tough customer to overtake and leave behind. And just to give you an idea of what lap times these guys are running, they're down at about the 58, 57 lap times up front with Sainz, Ashton, and Wright. They're still down in the 54s and closing in on best lap times even as this race goes on. So now Mittelhoser gets a double dose of draft as here comes the number 11 machine of Jolly back on Seppa. Seppa very, very wide on that runway straightaway. It looks like he was going for takeoff, but unfortunately that car does not fly. And now he loses the position to Alan Jolly. Frank Nguyen now in this mix as well. Where Rodrigo Munoz, we haven't really talked about at all, is unforced error there. by Nguyen, and there goes the 17 of Munoz. Yeah, that corner, turn 5, can really bite you and ruin your day if you're not careful. That dirt, it's a good thing that 7 was able to hang on to it.
I think Nguyen there, he was aware of the importance of getting a good exit, because it might have opened up an overtaken an opportunity or an undercut as the two ahead of him were fighting. Just got a little bit too eager, unfortunately, and it's cost him heaps and heaps of time, not only to the guys he was fighting, but to that number 11 car of Jolly, and also Munoz and Valenzuela. Oh god, I'm never going to be able to pronounce that. The 18 car behind. You know, it could prove to be really costly.
I was told it was Valenzuela. Kind of like Venezuela, but more Valenzuela. Like we switched a few of the vowels around, but Valenzuela actually doing a good job holding on to 18. It's Birchhold has been on the move and trying to get around him as soon as Dixon. In this fight, man, these three do not want to leave each other alone. Pollock looks to the outside, looks back to the inside. That was aggressive, and he wants to get around Helmrich in a hurry. And now Mittelhoser is going to have a big dose of draft heading down into Bishop. And this is a tight section. And oh no, Alan Jolly has gone off for a ride. Where has the 11 car gone? And this looks like to be on the exit of Le Mans or close to Sunset Bend. This is the exit of Le Mans.
Yeah, it's Le Mans. He's just going to drift off up onto the grass. That loses you the traction.
Ooh, just a heavy hit.
Big impact with the wall there. Big impact. It's so easy to do because you don't want to lift off the throttle as you come onto this huge straightaway, because you know that you're just going to get slipstream passes if you're not even there. So you keep your foot in, you go up on the grass, and then the consequences are even bigger. Chris Pollock, meanwhile, is being overtaken by Mittelhoser and is immediately tucked up underneath the gearbox, trying to get him back into turn 1.
Now, there is no live stewards. However, it is recommended on the forums that no blocking is allowed. And I would like to say, Mittelhoser, that was as close to not blocking as you could possibly get. That 15 is trying to hold on to as many spots as they can. They all get moved up a spot due to Alan Jolly, who was able to limp back home to pit road. I don't know if there's much more that 11 car can do besides maybe a 22nd place finish. A really good showing, I think, from the field of their control and skill, even though there have been some minor errors and adventures with trying to find alligators, as George Singles and some other drivers have found going into the hairpin right here. But 22 cars still on track. 21 still in the lead lap and relatively undamaged. A really good showing, as here comes Christopher Wright, who has been slowly, chipping away at Jack Ashton's advantage. And Ashton has actually fallen off the back of Greg Seitz. Seitz has checked out and said goodbye. I'm going to go and win this race, Ashton. You can go fight with Christopher if you like. And right down the inside, this is a bit of an aggressive pull right here, all the way to the wall in Sunset Bend. It's going to be a bit of a hard exit, though, for the 6. Can he hang on? Both of them hanging on for dear life. The grip is slowly going away, I think, on both these cars, and they're just trying to hang on for dear life.
Yeah, particularly with Ashton's aggressive driving style. This is where he tends to lose out. If he's in wheel-to-wheel combat, he'll come out on top 90% of the time. The issue is, if he's trying to close somebody that's as smooth as Greg Seitz down, he struggles to keep those tyres in check, and towards the end of the race, we see him slip back to the field. So Wright's getting involved. If these two fight, Michelin Green's right there to take advantage as well in the 10 car. So with enough laps to go, Ashton's in trouble of not even making the podium here.
Now, I just had to see how aggressive Wright gets. Wright has won this race a couple times this week. Michelin Green has not, but both have stayed on the podium at least once throughout the week. And again, this is we mentioned this earlier, this is a heavyweight battle. These are a lot of the top-tier drivers, a lot of the big names in the community that talk around, give tips, always trying to help build the community and build the racing. As we get a little bit of a double box there. There in the smaller box, you can see Mittelhoser going to the inside of the 21 of Chris Pollock, who's gotten it all wrong on the exit of turn 5. As we keep our main attention now on Christopher Wright, Michelin Green, both trying to chase down Jack Ashton. And again, here is Ashton's weakness. It has been Le Mans corner. If he gets a good exit out of here, he'll be able to hold right off. But that long straightaway, this is such a big drafting advantage for the 6 machine. It's really going to be hard for Ashton, even at this distance, I think, to hold off Christopher.
Yeah, here comes the 6 car. Ashton again just looked a little bit hesitant. He was less confident through Le Mans than the 6 that's closing him down. Slipstream important, but so is turning, which is where it seemed that Christopher Wright had a huge advantage last time. Once again, he's able to just reel in the gap, put the magnets on the front of his orange Indy 2000 machine, and he'll close down again on the run towards turn 1. It's these quick corners where Wright just seems to have a little bit of the edge at the moment. It's a question of how do you take that and turn it into an overtaking opportunity.
Well, the problem is too, is like these are two guys that are, you know, relatively equal pace. Last time by, Wright was about 3/10 faster, and 3/10 is probably the biggest gap you're going to see from these two. Their best lap times are almost nearly identical, as currently that 3 machine is inching closer and closer to the 6. Wright is looking, he's considering, he's thinking, do I want to dive down in the hairpin? No, not this time. I'm going to try and take it neat and tidy. A little bit wide from Ashton, but he's able to hold on for now. Ian Green just watching kind of patiently at the moment. Again, these two get into this fight, it's going to bring up the 10 and the 2 for a possible podium.
Yeah, exactly. We've already seen how much time fighting can cost you, because Greg Seitz is checked out as if the rest of the field isn't even there, yet it took him 2 or 3 laps of fighting to even get to the front of the field, just because you're always jostling, you're not on the racing line, you lose a little bit of time on the brakes when you're defending, you lose a little bit of time on the power because you took a slightly tighter entry line, for example, and all of that can just compound the issue, and before you know it, you've lost 2-3 seconds in a lap just because you went side by side a couple times. Here's that corner again, Le Mans. Oh, Christopher ate that time. I was about to comment on the fact that Christopher seems more happy to swing it out beyond the white line to get a nice open run through turn 16. That was a good time he might have overdone it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of a big swing there. Looks like he's auditioning to be part of the Tampa Bay Rays, trying to hit a home run right there. As now he's going to get a good draft down the front straightaway, but he's lost that time he made up. He was right on the gearbox of Ashton going through Le Mans, and now with just 2 laps left, it's going to be really, really difficult to get by Jack Ashton. He's a vicious defender and a very, very good dueler. And one-on-one racing is, I think, something that Jack Ashton is really, really good at.
Because he enjoys it, isn't it? He loves a scrap. There's the people who get nervous when you go side by side, and they'll get a little bit hesitant or maybe back out because they are aware that when you're side by side, there's always the opportunity for a crash or an incident. And then there's the people like Jack Ashton who go, "You want to get past me? Come and make the move then. I'm going to defend it. I'm going to fight back." And Ewan's going to have to fight back.
Yeah, speaking of moves, Fabio
just been quite aggressive. Yeah.
Fabio Berchtold, Valenzuela got passed on the last lap, and Frank Nguyen is unfortunately dropping back. It looks like that car is not set up for the long run. Fabio Berchtold now into 9th place, and we've seen Berchtold on the top 5 here. Again, just mentioning how strong this field is. He's all the way down in 9th place, and that may be the best he can do. He's going to have to track down Valenzuela, but now our attention turns back to the left side of the screen. Ashton and Wright, we're heading through the final 2 sections here through Tower. We're going to go down through Bishop, through turn 15 and 16, where Wright has been inching closer and closer to Jack Ashton. Going left and right, here's that hard right-hander. Ashton got it right last time, where Christopher Wright got it very, very wrong. As we head into Le Mans, they go a little bit wide, and now this is kind of doom and gloom right now for this 3 machine. It's going to be a hefty dose of draft going into Sunset Bend.
That was much better from Ashton as well. That time, the lines were identical between the 3 and the 6 car, and as a result, Jack closes way less in a straight line than we've seen him on previous laps. Wright still got the turn in, though, but Ashton says, "Nope, I'm taking the line that I want to take. You can find a way past, and I'm not just leaving that door open for you. You've got to find a way of prizing it open so that you can fit a whole car in there, because otherwise, you're only fitting half a car, and that's not going to work." Here it
down
comes.
The inside on the last lap. Here he goes. Christopher Wright trying to get Jack Ashton. Ashton a little bit on the rumble strips. They're fighting hard and side by side. This 6 car knows time is running out. Meanwhile, 4 seconds ahead, Greg Seitz was able to duel his way to the front. The number 1 is remaining in P1, but who is going to be second? Who's going to be third? As right now, Ashton a little bit ahead. He's going to have an advantage going into the hairpin, right? Closing, and closing. It's going to be a really late braking job, though, to get it down right here. He's thinking about it. Late on the brakes go Christopher Wright. Nothing doing there. A good exit, though, from Ashton is going to hold him now as we go through Fangio. We have about half a lap to go. in this race. Wright is closing and closing again. Defensive Ashton to the inside. We go into Cunningham, turn 10. They're side by side. Ashton, a little bit of an early apex going to cost him. We're going to go through Collier and now through turn 12 and 13. There's Mitchell Ian Green in the background. These two collide. Mitchell Ian Green will stand on the podium in the 10 machine. But these two have to be careful. A little off goes Ashton. Who is going to stand second and who is going to stand third is the question. We head now through Bishop and now through turn 15. And here's the crucial part. Turn 16, Lamar Corner. We've already talked about it all day. Ashton has not been the greatest here, but Christopher Wright needs to get it right. Ashton, that was a really good exit that time, but here comes the draft. The old crucial draft. Down the Ullman straight into Sunset Bend. Can Christopher Wright send it down the inside and get second place? He's on the gearbox of Ashton. He's going to take the long way around. He sends it down the outside. And I think Ashton might be able to hold it. Ashton gets loose. Into the grass they go. They're going to come across the line side by side. Greg Seitz is going to collect the victory. I don't know who's second. I don't know who's second. I think Ashton got it by...
it's Ashton. Yeah, by... what a hairline. Here's Newen fighting back around the outside of Birchtold. Can Birchtold hold on in the way that Ashton was trying to? Newen's going to run him all the way to the line. The 7 car, it's even closer than it was before. It's Newen. Newen's had him by what? Maybe 300ths of a second. What? We don't often see that much fight from Frank. He knows how important that is for the championship.
And the rest of the field coming across the line. Andrew Berry coming home 13th. Mittelhoser is coming across the line. Here comes the 22 Amelia. We haven't really mentioned him. Solid running from the 22 machine. Rafa a bit further down the order, but that was the interval. .031 from second into third place. Jack Ashton and Christopher Wright. And the same exact interval from Frank Newen to Fabio Berchtold, P9 to P10. And these guys put on a show. What a finish from everyone in that field. It was a hard-fought race.
It was. I mean, what else can you say? We had a drag to the line. Ashton looked as if he had it covered. He knew that Wright was going to have a little go down the inside. He'd been trying it 2 or 3 laps prior. Ashton says, no, I'm covering the inside. As a result, he ends up sweeping all the way wide. And Wright tries, to be honest, a very Ashton move, coming back underneath on the exit, but it wasn't quite enough.
So we are the final standings. We didn't really mention the leader much in that last lap, but Greg Seitz, it was a job well done. He goes a lot of hard fighting in the early stages for the one machine. Is able to collect another win here. Jack Ashton barely across the line over Christopher Wright, the Florida native. Mitchell Ian Green from Pennsylvania comes on fourth, Floyd Poirier by solid top 5 finish. Servi Seppa clawed his way through the field from 9th place into 6th for the Finnish driver. Rodrigo Munoz and Valenzuela, 17 and 18, lineup 7 and 8. The Hispano-American drivers doing a really good job. Frank Newen barely beating Fabio Berchtold. We had 2 drag races to the line in the top 10. An amazing finish from those guys. Here we go to the rest of the field. Andrew Dixon, a quiet race for the 14 and number 11. Number 9, Joy Singles, went exploring, tried to go find some alligators off in the hairpin. Unfortunately, it's able to come home 12th at least. Andrew Berry, a guy we normally see towards the front of this group. Again, such a stacked field today. Comes home 13th. Con Amelia, we didn't mention him almost at all for the 22 machine. A solid finish at 14th. David Mittelhoser, the 15, comes back to finish 15 after that early lap error. Fabio Rafa in the 23 and P16. Guerrero Helmich spun around on lap 1 and comes home P17. Chris Pollock was fighting hard for every position he can get in P18. Jean-Michael Newen, a little bit of lap 1 error as well, went off into the wall in P19. Pierre Bourdon all the way down in P20. And here we have some of the victims of the race. Alan Jolly went a little bit too hard on the exit of Le Mans, slamming the inside wall, comes from P21. David Weber was collected in that lap 1 incident, comes from 5 laps down in P22. And Adam Isaacson was putting on a show. He was clawing his way through the field, but an issue on the exit of Sunset Bend saw him finish 9 laps down in 23rd. I'm a little bit out of breath after that one, Tom. That was exciting from flag to flag. We had racing everywhere we went. Action. Here's a replay of the lap 1 incident. This is where we saw a bit of kind of the craziest we see with a full field like this is, with so many different drivers in the field, like how just crazy this opening lap can be.
Yeah, exactly. And here was yet another one. The 9 car just misses the braking a little bit on the cold tires, goes straight on, but lovely little rejoin, and was immediately fighting position when they came back on. Up at the front, it was all chaos the whole time. There's the mistake we didn't see from Ashton on that opening lap, because he built up 8-9 tenths of a second, got a little bit squirrely. That allowed Greg Seitz into play and ultimately changed the outcome of the entire race.
Yeah, Seitz was able to get around, but then here comes Christopher Wright and Mitchell Ian Green. You can see Barb right back there in the picture as well. And this was a hard-fought race, I think, for everyone. Like, Wright was looking to the inside, Green was looking to the inside. I think we're going to see a little bit of an issue right here, possibly with the 20 or the 21, which just explains some of the big gap going into the hairpin. Yeah, the hairpin caught out a lot of drivers today. It's a tricky corner and a tricky exit to get. But again, thankfully, we had 20 cars finish on the lead lap, which is really impressive and a good show from everyone. And a good recovery drive, I think, even if you finish down to the field, like for Helmut, like for Pollock, like for Mittelhoser, to really come out and try and retain as much I rating and safety rating as possible. As here was this early fight for the lead. There were 7-6 cars involved in this.
Yeah, this is when I became an Adam J. Isaacson fan. The 5 car gets involved when he has no right to do so. He started way down the grid, and before you know it, up onto the podium. Fantastic opportunist driving. Jack Ashton trying to take a little leaf out of his book, actually, with a look down the inside into turn 3. And once again, it all settles down for a little bit, and we get excited about the next time we get to see the back straightaway.
Real turning point of this race. You can see this 3-wide pass on Ashton, which was just a bit chaotic and crazy. He had cars going left and right of him. The 6 to the inside, the 10 to the outside. He has to worry about Barb right behind, the 5 ahead. Ian Green almost got into the wall there, but I think the race-changing move was the 5 machine, and I think we're going to see it right here on the exit of Sunset Bend. Just gets into the outside wall. And this, I think, changed the game for everyone, because everyone has to check up right here as the 5 comes back across the track. Splits up kind of the field and takes it a really good driver.
Yeah, he was sort of the unknown in a race where otherwise we knew everybody's strengths and weaknesses, so he was the person everybody had to be aware of, and when that factor was taken away, Greg Seitz could calm down and try run his consistent, calm, quick, but under control pace at the front, as he always looks to do. There's the mistake from Ewan that dropped him back behind Fabio Berchelt and ultimately gave us that fantastic second drag and left the 11 and also that lovely little orange car of, I believe, Seppa to fight it out.
And there was a mistake from the 11, just into the grass, tries to save it, wiggling to try and hold on to it, but just it's not much you can do in that situation. He was able to limp home and get to pit road and finish 4 laps down, but this was an epic fight. And speaking of an epic fight, we have the winner of that fight. You know, the number 3, the Fordzilla driver of Jack Ashton, who beat Christopher Wright to the line. You can see Wright getting a little sideways there. And this is just a proper duel from both of them. And while we're at it, why don't we bring Ashton in here? Hey, Jack Ashton, it's Jonathan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
That was a duel. That was entertaining. You left us on the edge of our seat those entire last 2 or 3 laps with Christopher. Just walk us through, like, how were you trying to fend him off? There was so many opportunities, so many big drafting places where the 6 can get you, and you got it by .031 at the line.
I don't know how I hung on to that one. As soon as I ran wide and then got an oversteer on the exit of the last corner and then touched the grass, I thought, this is game over. He's definitely got a better run than I have, but I managed to just hold it off at the line. I don't really know how, but yeah, I'll take that. Obviously, the race, I had it in my head that if I'm going to try and beat Greg tonight, that I've got to try and break away early. And first lap, car felt great, and my setup's quite dialed in for early pace, and myself as well. I tend to start taking it easy later on when that's not what I should be doing. I should just keep pushing all the time, especially when racing people like Greg. But yeah, I tried to push a little hard and touched a bit of a curb and it spat me wide. Lucky I didn't spin or anything, but that's what got me back into the duel of Greg and stuff. So as soon as I was behind, I was really like, I have to push to get past Greg now, because I know later on that Greg will be faster. I pushed to try and get past. A few times I actually didn't mean to try and dive, and it ruined me my run, and that's when I ended up like 5th or something at one point on the exit of the corner by such a bad run on the straight. But what a great race to sort of up and down race to come back first, second, 5th, second, and then just win it by a hair. But yeah, I enjoyed that one. That was good fun.
It was fun watching, and you mentioned that we were in replays and we go back into the view and we see you in the middle 3 wide down the straightaway. How intense were those first few laps for you? Because there was 6 or 7 different players up in the field, all trying to vie for that win. You know, how much mirror driving did you have to do managing who was going where?
Well, I just knew that Greg, as soon as if he got a break from everybody, that he would have just got away. So I was trying to get past as soon as possible. Hence why I was being quite aggressive in the early stages to try and get back into P2 to then push to catch him. And then I was just out of the draft range as I was in P2. So which then we were lapping similar pace for about 3 laps, and then I just dropped off where the setup for me wasn't quite working later on. And this session is quite hot as well. It's running about 34 degrees, which I've been practicing like the 30s. So yeah, it was a bit tricky in the later stages for me, but yeah, it was a great race.
You were ducking inside and outside, weaving in and out, just trying to find the most gap. In terms of the championship, you get home a 2nd place finish. It's a big room, a high split. You'll get a lot of points from this one. What are you looking forward to the remaining schedule of races? We only have 1 oval, a lot of road courses, some similar to Sebring, some not. You know, is there a game plan that you have?
My game plan from the start of the season was definitely just get these top 5s, consistent finishes. But more and more I'm racing Greg, and more he's beating me. I know it doesn't show in the championship, but obviously with drop rounds included, Greg will be easy champion at the moment. So obviously keeping up, if we stay like this, then yeah, he'll be easy champion. So tonight, that's why I really felt like I had some good pace here, that I thought I have to try and push to try and beat Greg tonight. Seeing as I beat him last week for the first time, it was trying to do that, but didn't quite have the edge on him tonight. He's a quick guy.
You're just as quick, man. You were putting on a really good show. But thank you so much for your time, Jack, and we'll catch you next week. And I'll see you as well for either competition for Club Cup in a few weeks' time.
No problems. I'll just say a couple of thank yous.
You may.
Just a massive thank you to Team Fordzilla. I say it all the time, but they're a massive help to me, the team and all the team members. A massive shout out to my stream as well. I just got 20 subs for that P2 finish, so that's Angus King. Thank you so much for that, mate. What a legend. And yeah, thank you to my girlfriend, anyone else who's watching. Thanks.
All right, and again, thank you for putting on a good show and racing with us here every Friday afternoon. And again, we'll catch you next week, Jack.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right, that was the P2 finisher of Jack Ashton. And again, we still have a decent amount of the season to go. Sebring week 7 now. We head to Silverstone and Imola. And if Sebring is any indication of how those 2 races should run, we're in for a blast these final 5 weeks.
Yeah, we got two big circuits, I think is the word to describe them, coming up. They are really long laps, and they're both really quick as well in the way that they flow from corner to corner. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out, because you'd think it would suit Greg's sights, but they do give Ashton the opportunity to be aggressive in those opening few laps, and we've seen that when he can do that, he's incredibly difficult to beat. So the next 2 rounds are going to be extremely important for that championship that Jack's focusing on.
And don't forget, we still have an oval, USA Speedway, a track that many drivers, especially on the oval side, are familiar with. It's the rookie level track that everyone gets to entertain us, as well as Spa and Road Atlanta these last 5 weeks. Make sure you stay here for that. Speaking of staying here, unfortunately, that is going to wrap us up this week for the Indy Pro 2000 coverage, but don't go anywhere if you're watching on the YouTube channel. We have Friday Night Prime Time, the RO01s at Watkins Glen, coming up in just a few moments' time. That should be a fun, entertaining race. But for now, for myself, for Tom Davis, for Hugo Luis, And thank you for the track cams, 22 from Mr. Van Ballo. We say so long from virtual Sebring, Florida, and congratulations, Greg Seitz, on another Pro Mazda win.